Well, back to the conflict in Israel now, and joining us now is the IDF combat reservist and Chief Executive of the Miriam Institute, Benjamin Anthony. Benjamin, good to see you. Thanks for your time this morning. So we saw in our coverage at the top of the show the delay in terms of a ground invasion going into Gaza. Is this giving encouragement, in your view, to Hamas that their plan might be working to drip feed hostages in exchange for, a possible delay leading to a permanent delay of a ground invasion?
No, I don't think that this is giving hope to Hamas. I think that there are some considerations that are being imparted to the State of Israel by the Biden administration. I want to emphasize they're not being dictated to Israel, but rather imparted as advice. First of all, one has to keep in mind the bombing that's taking place over the Gaza Strip is very effective and making a real impact. We're continuing to collect intelligence here in the Israel Defense Forces from different sources, from human intelligence, signals intelligence, and cyber intelligence. And we're also continuing to prepare and hone our troops and the operational plans that we hope to unfold in the event of a ground incursion taking place. Finally, the United States military very much wishes to strengthen and prepare its assets in the region in advance of a ground incursion. Those include assets that are over in Syria and assets that are over in Iraq. In the case of Syria, engaged in fighting ISIS. That's really what seems to be accounting for the delay. But you're right, Hamas is cynically seeking to drip feed, to use your phrase, hostages back into Israel so that it can take control of the timing of what's about to befall it. Israel must not allow that to happen and must take direct agency and leadership here.
Just back on one of your further points there about military assets, Benjamin, the Australian government is this morning announcing that it's going to be sending additional Australian Defence Force personnel and aircraft to the Middle East region. It's part of Operation Beach. Do you think, on top of the American assets that are being sent to the region, does this point to the potential of a broader conflict in the Middle East?
I think that it absolutely does point to that potential. One has to understand that the smallest of events, the most local of events here, have international reverberations at the best of times. But when one thinks about the fact that 1,400 members of the citizenry of the State of Israel were brutally murdered in the bloodiest rampage that's befallen the Jewish people since the events of the Holocaust, one recognizes and understands that there will be a military response to that. It simply is required. One cannot survive in this part of the world if it does not show readiness to respond decisively to those who wrought such harm and such brutality against our people. And so, yes, more aid to the area speaks to the potential for a widening conflict. Of course, the government is seeking to avoid that from taking place, that broadening.
Tell me something, Benjamin. Looking ahead, once this is all sorted, and however long this takes, could be months, could be much longer than that, what happens to those kibbutzes in the southern parts of Israel that were exposed by Hamas terrorists a couple of weeks ago now? I mean, can they stay there? Do they need to be more heavily fortified? What's the future of that part?
Yes, that's such an important question. Thank you for asking it. The reality is that decision is going to be made when they assess how impactful and how conclusive this ground incursion actually is. Or, if there is not a ground incursion, how impactful this military operation is when it comes to achieving the stated goal. Remember that stated goal. It is dismantling of Hamas, the toppling of Hamas, and quite frankly, the vanquishing of Hamas from the face of the earth. Those are the words of our Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, and our Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. If that goal is achieved, and those aforementioned residents of the kibbutzim feel it's achieved, you might see them return en masse. Anything short of that, I think it's going to be a long, hard struggle before people feel safe and secure back in the homes they built up. And also, to your question, yes, those areas need to be fortified. The Israel Defense Forces needs to be there. It needs to have a presence there. And it must never, ever allow itself to once again rely on static defense, such as the subterranean barrier that was excavated there. That was a huge, huge mistake.
Yeah. Okay. Benjamin Anthony, good to have you with us. Thank you. We'll talk to you again soon.